Today I'm going to be sharing with you and reading a few of my favorite passages from the Bhagavad Gita. This is the Bhagavad Gita as it is, and these are some of my favorite verses from the Gita. The Bhagavad Gita as a term comes from the word Bhagavan, which means God, and Gita, which means song. So it directly translates to God's song. This book is a highly renowned catalyst of knowledge, and it is well known amongst all of the Vedic scriptures, some of which include the Mahabharata, the Vedic Puranas, the Sri Brahma Samhita, the Srimad Bhagavatams, and so on. I'm going to begin by reading Canto. I don't really know how this works, but I'm going to begin by reading Chapter 5, Canto 23. As you may or may not know, the entirety of the Gita is Lord Sri Krishna narrating to his closest friend, counterpart, and disciple, Arjuna, why Arjuna should fight in the Battle of Kurukshetra, which is an ancient battle that occurred over 5,000 years ago. Throughout the Gita, Lord Sri Krishna narrates to Arjuna exactly who he is in terms of every single form he is able to possess and why it is important to follow the spiritual path of Krishna consciousness. Chapter 5, Canto 23. An intelligent person does not take part in the sources of misery, which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Material sense pleasures are due to the contact of the material senses, which are all temporary, because the body itself is temporary. A liberated soul is not interested in anything which is temporary. Knowing well the joys of transcendental pleasures, how can a liberated soul agree to enjoy false pleasure? In the Padma Purana it is said, the mystics derive unlimited transcendental pleasures from the Absolute Truth, and therefore the Supreme Absolute Truth, the personality of Godhead, is also known as Rama. In the Srimad Bhagavatam also it is said, my dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure while in this human form of life. Such pleasures are available to the stool eaters, hogs. Rather, you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified, and as a result you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. Therefore, those who are true yogis or learned transcendentalists are not attracted by sense pleasures, which are the causes of continuous material existence. The more one is addicted to material pleasures, the more he is entrapped by material miseries. Before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of the material senses and check the force of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. If one wants to make steady progress on the path of self-realization, he must try to control the forces of the material senses. There are the forces of talk, forces of anger, forces of mind, forces of the stomach, forces of the genitals, and forces of the tongue. One who is able to control the forces of all these different various senses and the mind is called Goswami or Swami. Such Goswamis live directly controlled lives and forego altogether the forces of the senses. Material desires, when unsatiated, generate anger, and thus the mind, eyes, and chest become agitated. Therefore, one must practice to control them before one gives up this material body. One who can do this is understood to be self-realized, and is thus happy in the state of self-realization. It is the duty of the transcendentalist to try strenuously to control anger and desire. This is my favorite verse. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inwards, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme, and ultimately he attains the Supreme. Unless one is able to relish happiness from within, How can one retire from the external engagements meant for deriving superficial happiness? A liberated person enjoys happiness by factual experiences. He can, therefore, sit quietly at any place and enjoy the activities of life from within. Such a liberated person no longer desires external material happiness. This state is called Brahma Bhutta, attaining which one is assured of going back to Godhead, back to home. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. Only a person who is fully in Krishna consciousness can be said to be engaged in welfare work for all living entities. When a person is actually in the knowledge that Krishna is the fountainhead of everything, then when he acts in that spirit, he acts for everyone. The sufferings of humanity are due to forgetfulness of Krishna as the supreme enjoyer, the supreme proprietor, and the supreme friend. Therefore, to act to revive this consciousness within the entire human society is the highest welfare work. One cannot be engaged in such first-class welfare work without being liberated in the Supreme. A Krishna-conscious person has no doubt about the supremacy of Krishna. He has no doubt because he is completely freed from all sins. This is the state of divine love. A person engaged only in ministering to the physical welfare of human society cannot factually help anyone. The temporary relief of the external body and the mind is not satisfactory. The real cause of one's difficulties in the hard struggle for life may be found in one's forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. This was Chapter 5, Canto 23 to Chapter 5, Canto 27. And in summary, the cantos that I just read describe how important it is to be situated in one's complete devotion towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He, as source, as the definition of purity, as the definition of light, as the definition of all things transcendental, is bliss personified. And when we bow down to serve this bliss, when we bow down to serve the purest sound in the universe, the purest light in the universe, and the purest energy in the universe, we admit to ourselves through this prayer and through this devotional service, we're admitting to ourselves that our false ego is a paradigm, our false ego is a cage, and our false ego is just that, false. It is the farthest thing away from truth. And when we accept truth in its entirety by chanting the holy names. Hey, okay, as you can see, it's dark. Many hours have passed, and I am starting this video. I'm resuming this video because my camera died, and I went to the gym, and a bunch of stuff happened in the meantime, but I'm back. We're just gonna pick up right where we left off. So, I explained to you why it is important to be completely and entirely subservient to Source, to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And if you want to pick up this book, it is the Bhagavad Gita as it is by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. You can find it at your nearest bookstore. I'm sure they have it online. I'm sure they have it on Amazon. This was gifted to me, as they most usually are. Generally, when you encounter this book, it's free because a lot of the devotees give it out just from the goodness of their hearts and do not expect any monetary compensation in return. It fully explains why, as human beings, to be anything except subservient to the Supreme Personality of Godhead is misusing the time that we have here as human beings in this incarnation. Rather than to misuse our time, we can obtain the greatest gift, which is explained throughout this book, and which is inherently self-actualization. And how does one become self-actualized? When they align themselves with Source, when they align themselves with truth. And Krishna was an actual person. He existed in Vrindavan, over 5,000 years ago. He was a prophet, much like the Buddha, much like Muhammad, much like Jesus Christ, much like any other prophet that spoke about the Lord. And in every single religion, these prophets are seen to be the sons of God. Why? Because they have reached complete self-actualization, or they have become enlightened. And a lot of us do have that potential. And how does one unlock that potential? By trying to, by reading, by studying philosophy, by attempting to align oneself emotionally through practices of meditation and compassion and the like. So anyway, this entire book, a good 690 pages of it, explains why we need to become aligned with Source and how we can do so. In summary of the previous verses that I recited like 4 hours ago, 5 hours ago, it talks about sense pleasure, and it talks about how it is temporary and fleeting. So all the joys and all the hardships that come with existing in this material world are temporary. And if we become so swayed by them, by every single downfall and every single high, then we are simply susceptible to the workings of Maya, or the workings of material illusion. Maya means illusion in Sanskrit. And why is it important to not become continually swayed? Well, one, so that our suffering may cease, right? But also, two, because if we are consistently allowing things to happen to us, then life in itself just happens to us, instead of us being in the driver's seat of our own lives. Why is it important to be in the driver's seat? Well, so that you can control the outcome of your life, A. B, so you can utilize your life to its fullest extent and capacity. And C, so that you may dissolve all aspects of old, outdated, or bad karma, and instead embrace the path, the duty, or your dharma that you are to undertake as an individual here existing on this planet. And whether or not you believe in this stuff, this is a really good grounding philosophy. Henry David Thoreau even likes it, and he says in the back of this book, he says, "In the morning I bathe my intellect in the stupendous and You know, I think I can like read and then this happens. I've never heard that word in my life. Cosmogonal. Stupendous and cosmogonal philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita, in comparison with which our modern world and its literature seems puny and trivial." Henry David Thoreau. Ooh, okay. "When doubts haunt me, when disappointments stare me in the face, and I see not one ray of hope on the horizon, I turn to the Bhagavad Gita and find a verse to comfort me, and I immediately begin to smile in the midst of overwhelming sorrow. Those who meditate on the Gita will derive fresh joy and new meanings from it every day." Mahatma Gandhi. And you know, I agree with you, fam, because every single time I'm unwell, I pick up this book. Even when I am well, I pick up this book, and then when I put it down, I'm like glowing. It's insane what spiritual knowledge can do for us should we be willing to receive and accept it in its highest capacity. So I thoroughly enjoy this book. I don't really think I read anything else. I have these two right here. Hold on. I have Spiritual Yoga, again by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Okay, and I also have the Sri Brahma Samhita by His Divine Grace. Oh my gosh, y'all need to shorten these names, bruh. I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but but come on. His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Thakura. Okay. Well, thank you for coming to my TED Talk. I will be back with more verses because I love this. I love reading to the camera and going over the meaning behind the verses again to myself. When I do this, it helps me tremendously, and I hope that it has helped you too. So that is it for this video, and as always, I will see you in my next one.